Hello, my name is Michael Bertels. I work as a project leader for the National Dutch Fire Association. I have a brief introduction to how machines and humans must work together when reporting an incident. And first of all, I'd like to introduce a theoretical concept, the nesting doll. It's a little wooden Russian doll where one fits into the other. This concept will come in handy later in my presentation. And secondly, I have an important question for you. Do you love your computer? Of course you love your computer because you can do lots of handy stuff with it. But do you also like the government's computer? Well, the computer says no. So I like my own computer, but I don't really like working together with other computers. And another point is, does the government's computer like you? Can the government's computer trust you? This is another theoretical concept to keep in mind, and I will come back to it later in my presentation. Now let's look at the chain of events in case of an incident. It starts with local use, and in the local situation, a fire or a burglary or something else, a health emergency, is detected and verified. Somebody locally will have a look to see if help from outside is needed. They'll report the alarm. The alarm will be transmitted to the dispatch center. The dispatch center will receive and route the alarm to the right service. The service will evaluate to see if help is really needed and perhaps how many vehicles should be dispatched. Then the actual dispatches will happen. And then the response units who will go to the scene of the incidents will be guided. And as soon as they arrive at the scene, they will just start the local incident management. Now, each of these bullets can be executed by a human or a machine. Yes, and even alarm transmission usually was done by sending a messenger before we invented the phone. So really every step can be done by a human or a machine. Now let's have a look at this chain of events. And on one side there's the responsibility of the user. The user must detect a threat at its own premises, then report it. And then from there on, once the threat has been reported, it's the responsibility of the emergency responders to send the appropriate response. Now let's have a look at the usual 112 call. Almost everything is done by humans, except for alarm transmission. We use 112 for that. And usually the dispatch is also done by a machine or by a proposition made by the computer. Now, what do we need to make this work? I need a compatible phone on the side of the user. I need a compatible phone on the side of the dispatch center so they can communicate. So I have a little black arrow that is actually indicating human-to-human interaction. Once the call is routed to the right service, the person in the dispatch center will also want to evaluate, and he wants to speak to a human on the other side who has actually confirmed. So he wants to speak to the person and find out what actually happened. Suppose I'm in an incident scene, I ask somebody else to dial 112. The people get through to the dispatch center. The person at the dispatch center will ask, okay, can you please put me through to the person who actually is at the scene and can confirm what happened. Now let's have a look how current fire detection systems are organized. Everything in yellow is automated, so I have automated detection. I get an immediate report of the smoke or of the burglary, and I get an automated machine-to-machine transfer of data from reporting directly to receiving and routing. The only problem with this current setup is that confirmation doesn't really take place. What happens a lot is that, for example, smoke is detected and the machine will immediately report this to the dispatch center without any form of confirmation. And then, if the dispatch center does not evaluate, they will immediately send the dispatch out, and this will result in many unwanted and unnecessary dispatches of fire and police vehicles. So let's introduce human confirmation and evaluation. So an automated fire alarm will go, for example, smoke detector. A person will confirm that there's actually a fire going on and that help from the fire brigade is needed. The actual transfer of data is done by a machine. And then in that case, the human in the dispatch center that wants to evaluate will want to speak to the human that confirmed that there's actual fire. And here I introduce the nesting doll again. So we see a small process in the middle. Reporting, receiving can be done by a machine. That's the smallest nesting doll. And around that there's a second nesting doll. Confirmation, evaluation is done by humans. Now suppose I would introduce a way of confirmation that is done by a machine. For example, I could use a trusted certificate that is agreed upon beforehand. So I inform the market if you perform your confirmation according to a protocol that is certified. I will then evaluate the fact that you have followed this certified protocol, and I will accept your call and I will immediately dispatch. If I immediately dispatch after approving of the protocol, I might as well dispatch right away. So all these steps will be automated once I have a trusted certificate for confirmation. And in this stage I actually can introduce a third nesting doll, because the detecting and the verification can tell me the exact location, in what room did the fire start and what corridor is the smoke spreading, and that is very useful information to guide the units that are going to the incident scene, because they can approach the building right away in the right fashion. Now I'd like to come to a conclusion. On one side of responsibility there's the detection, confirmation, and reporting, and on the other side, on the government side, there's receiving, routing, evaluation, dispatching, guiding. Now on my side I can use computers or not, whatever I like. They're my computers, I can use them in any way I like. But when I use a computer to confirm, that computer must talk to a computer that evaluates. So either I have confirmation by a human who will speak to the human operator, or I have confirmation by a machine that is using a trusted certificate that will be checked by a machine. And in case there's no confirmation, it's missing or it's of unknown quality, I simply reject the call. Otherwise I get a lot of unwanted fire and burglary calls like I do right now. Thank you very much for your attention to this brief introduction to how machines and humans must work together when reporting an incident. You can find my email address below on this last slide.